guys, it is Aoife from Fred Weasley Died Laughing, and I'm here with my weekly wrap up. I got loads of great books read this week, and the first book I finished reading was Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. Loads of people know who Sally Rooney is at this point. She is an Irish writer, and her first book was Conversation with Friends, and it did really well. And her second book is Normal People, which is also very popular, and that is one I read last year and really enjoyed. So I was really excited to pick this one up. I buddy read this with my co-host for the Irish Readathon and my very dear friend Leanne over at Leanne Rose, and it was really nice being able to buddy read this with her and just discuss all our different thoughts about the characters, because we both had a lot of thoughts about the characters. So this book follows the lives of Frances and Bobby, who are two young college students in Dublin, Ireland. They are Trinity College students. They're both in their early 20s, and they are both kind of they're both students. They don't really have jobs. They kind of they perform poetry now and again, and this follows them as they are being kind of profiled for this piece by a journalist, and they kind of enter her life and are kind of introduced to this other kind of way of living almost, and that's quite different to theirs. And then Frances ends up kind of starting an illicit affair with this married man, and we are following the two of them. They are both actually in, like, they're friends, they're basically best friends, but they're also used to be in a romantic relationship as well. So Bobby is gay and Frances is bisexual, and we're following kind of the different dynamics of their relationship, and then the new relationships that Frances is forming, especially this one with the married man. We're seeing how intense that is for her at times, how dispassionate she is about other things, and she's just really kind of like finding herself and learning a lot about herself during this book, and it's really interesting to follow. I will say I found this one harder to get into than Normal People, and I kind of find with Sally Rooney's books, whichever one you've read first seems to be the one that people prefer, so I definitely prefer Normal People over this one, but I just found the characters in Normal People easier to relate for some reason than Frances and Bobby. At the start of the book I really disliked Bobby. I found her quite insufferable and just quite preachy and judgy, and she was just, I don't know, she could just be really annoying, and I kind of was okay with Frances. Frances seemed kind of just like meek and like a bit of a whatever kind of character, and then near the end of the book I kind of flipped, and Frances kind of came a little bit more annoying for me, and Bobby, I actually ended up really liking Bobby, and I really liked how Bobby kind of looked out for Frances and took care of her the way like a friend should do, and forgave Frances for some things that Frances does that, you know, aren't very good. And I liked seeing, as I said, I liked seeing the dynamics of their relationship throughout the book and how it changes. I will say I really enjoyed the ending of this book. It wasn't what I expected, and I feel like it's probably an ending that a lot of people maybe don't like, because it's quite abrupt and it's kind of a bit like, oh okay, but I really enjoyed it. I just loved how the last few pages are written, and how you kind of see what was going to happen, and I wasn't sure if I wanted this to happen or if I didn't want it to happen, and if I did want it to happen, does that make me a bad person? I don't know. And I really loved it though, and it did, like, I definitely really enjoyed the ending, but overall, because it just took me a little bit while longer to get into this book, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. The book I read is a book I got off NetGalley. It's called M for Mammy by Eleanor O'Reilly. It's also an Irish book written by an Irish author, and this one is about this specific family living, I'm pretty sure they're living in Dublin, and we are following this daughter, the son and the mother, and the mother ends up suffering a stroke and she has to go away to hospital. The young son, Jacob, is actually autistic, so we are getting chapters from his point of view that are kind of the way he sees the world, and that's really interesting and something I haven't seen in a lot in other books. So we're getting the mom Annette's point of view and Jacob's point of view, and then we are getting chapters from the daughter's point of view. Her name is Jenny, and we are kind of seeing how she is struggling with her changing world, with her mom going away, with her granny coming in and taking care of the family, and her dad struggling to deal with her mum's health, and then he's also struggling to try and find a job and be able to support the family, and also dealing with the granny who's after coming in and messing up their lives a little bit with new routines and stuff. And there's also Jacob, obviously, who no one really knows how to deal with him. The best person who could deal with him and the best person who could understand him was his mother, who is no longer around, and he is non-verbal, so he doesn't communicate through speech, and so it's very hard for people to really understand what he's thinking and what he wants and when he's upset. The start of this book I really enjoyed. I really liked seeing how Jacob thought about the world. I thought it was done, I liked how it was done. I'm not sure, obviously I don't have much experience with autism or with autistic children. I don't really know anyone with autism, so I don't know how much preparation or research has been done into how Jacob thought, but I'm sure the author herself, Eleanor O'Reilly, is a teacher, so I presume she's probably taught children or has some dealings with children with autism, and this could be based upon her experiences. I don't know, but I do trust her that she probably has done research about autistic children and how they think, and some of it I did really enjoy. I just thought that a lot of the chapters, especially as we got on with the book and we kind of we established ourselves with how Jacob was thinking, and then as the book continued on, we were getting chapters from his point of view, and I just felt like the chapters were too long to be written in that kind of style where it's like, you know, the sky is blue, blue is not red, Thomas the Tank Engine is blue, Henry is green, green is like the grass, and like, it's this type of like, and it's about rules and regulations and how Jacob thinks and colours and people, and it's just very regimented, and it just wasn't enjoyable to read after a couple of pages, and I just feel like those chapters should have been way shorter, just for the reader's own enjoyment, because you can only read those kind of passages for so long a time. And the same was kind of like with the mum Annette, because obviously she was dealing with having a stroke, so her whole way of thinking changes, and when we see her struggling with normal thought and trying to remember things, and we're having two points of views, two chapters that are very disjointed and very hard to read. Then we went to Jenny's, and I feel like Jenny's was really good for a young child. You really kind of got her sense of, like, you know, not displacement, but her sense of where her world is changing. She doesn't really know how to deal with it. We start establishing that maybe she is making up things to try and deal with her changing world, and I don't think she really got the amount of support she should have gotten. I actually felt like the teacher in this book was actually really terrible, which is funny considering the author is also a teacher, but I didn't really like how Jenny was treated by her teachers at some points in the book. I just thought it was done really badly, particularly for a girl who's growing up with her mum really sick, and I feel like the way she was treated by her teachers was abysmal. I would have liked the story to further explore Jenny and how she saw the world at some parts, and how it's kind of obvious that she was kind of making up stories and lying at some points, not to other people but more to herself, and just making these stories because she's obviously somebody who one day will be a writer, and she makes up all these stories, but I feel like there was nothing done with that, and I feel like there should have been. And to be honest, like halfway through this book just completely, the story just completely lost itself on me. I just didn't care anymore. I skim read about the last 15% of the book because I just wanted to be over. I felt like there had already been some things that had happened where the book seemed like it should have ended there, and then it didn't. There was still like 15% left, and I was like, why is there so much more left of this book? And I just didn't care, so I ended up giving this a 2.5 out of 5 stars. I did enjoy the start of it, and I feel like I know what the author was trying to do. I just don't think it was executed very well, and it was, yeah, it just ended up being a disappointment. The next book I read is a book I've been meaning to read for a really long time, and that is Liz Nugent's Lying in Wait. As you guys know, Liz Nugent is one of my favourite Irish authors. She writes thrillers, and this book is kind of basically starts with a murder, and it starts with this older couple murdering this young woman and burying her in their back garden, and we don't know exactly why she was murdered. We know there's some sort of secret, but we don't know exactly what that is. So we are following the wife of this couple. Her name is Lydia, and we are following her. We're kind of seeing how she has this very cold, calculating way of thinking that's kind of scary. And then we're also following the couple's son Lawrence, who does figure out that there's like something weird going on with his parents at some point. We follow him as he gets older and as he grows up, and we see the kind of weird, controlling, obsessive relationship his mother has with him and everything he does. And we're also following the dead girl's sister, who eventually ends up connecting with Lawrence, and everything kind of comes together. And this book, you're kind of, you know that there's going to be this massive climax to it, and you know you're building and building and building to something, and it's just really this really look at characters and this horrible side of humans that you don't really want to see ever, and how cold and calculating and weird and obsessive humans can get about each other, what exactly they're capable of. And yeah, it was good. I read it really, really quickly. I sped through it, which I always do with Liz Nugent's writing. She's just a writer whose books you can just dive into. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, probably more of like a 3.5 really out of 5 stars. I think I did like it. I feel like it's a little bit disappointed at the ending. There wasn't so much of a big thing at the end. I just kind of felt like, oh, okay. Like, it was good, but it wasn't as great as I wanted it to be. A 3.5 out of 5 stars overall. Did really enjoy it. Fast read, which is what you want with a thriller. I picked up Dr. Copernicus by John Banville. This is a historical fiction novel based around the life of Dr. Copernicus, who, let me remind myself, shattered the medieval view of the universe and led to the formulation of the image of the solar system. And this book is, I don't really know, it's kind of, I enjoyed it and I didn't enjoy it at the same time. It's all about obviously this doctor called Dr. Copernicus. You follow him from a young child, but very quickly, like throughout the book, like he grows old very, very quickly in the book. And the book it's not written in a way that I really enjoy, where there's like this really deep look at his life and his family and the people in his life. It kind of like, it seems to move very quickly, and like he goes from kind of like 10 years old to 33 years old within like a few pages. And I wasn't sure if I really enjoyed that, but I won't say that Dr. Copernicus is a character that is like likable. I don't think any person in this book is likable at all, but you're kind of just seeing how he views the world and how difficult his life was because he had difficulty accepting his own kind of theories that he came up with, and how it kind of changed the world of science and the world of astronomy, and how he himself was very reluctant to kind of publicize his work, and just this really like weird kind of rotten relationship he has with the world and with people. And the whole book feels a bit rotten to me. Like, this book is one of those books that like made me feel icky. Like, out the characters are like dirty or like fluey, or like, I don't know, like they're always suffering from something, or like there's these characters that end up having a syphilis and have like disfigured faces, and it's generally this type of book that just like makes you feel icky and makes you want to have a shower. And I kind of like when writing does that, because I feel like writing is doing a really good job of it. Physically makes you feel a bit like ugh. And I do like writing. I do like reading books that like that now and again. So this one was interesting, and I did like this. I could really appreciate the skill of the writing in this, but just the way the story was told, laid out for us as readers, isn't a style that I normally enjoy, and I just would have liked a little bit more humanity in it, I guess. But I guess this book is all about it taking a step back maybe a little bit, and just, I don't know, it's a bit of a character study, I guess, in a way, but not in a way that I really enjoyed. I don't really know how to explain it, but it was okay. It wasn't great. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. The last book I finished this week was a really quick, small one. It was one of these Penguin modern classics. It was Glittering City by Cyprian Ekwensi. This is a book set in Lagos, Nigeria, and we are following this character called Fussy Joe, who is a bit of a con man and a bit of a womanizer, and we are following him as he basically just digs a massive hole for himself with the women he encounters, his various wives that he like cheats on and lies to constantly, and then the men that he lies to as well. He basically just lies to everyone. I quite liked this, and the thing is, I really like the character Fussy Joe in this, because he is a con man and he is a cheat, but he's also someone who can spin sugar with his tongue, you know, that kind of way. He is able to charm people, and I feel like he really charmed me as a reader in this, and I really felt like even though I knew everything he was doing was wrong, I felt like I really rooted for him, and I really enjoyed this kind of jazzy, like cool like Lagos that was portrayed in this as well, because I feel like I don't read a lot of books set in Nigeria, and I feel like this one in particular, like, it almost felt like it could be set in like New York or somewhere, and I really enjoyed that as well. So yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and as for like a little book that's only 50 pages long, I really enjoyed it. So that's everything I've read this week. Please let me know what you guys think as always, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.